It started with a single raindrop of soft, satisfying plink against the rim of my new rain barrel. After months of scrimping and saving, I'd finally installed a modest rainwater collection system behind my house in Willow Creek Estates. 5 sturdy barrels, linked by a network of pipes, sat proudly under my gutters, ready to capture every drop of spring rain to nourish my vegetable garden. I calculated it perfectly, enough water to carry me through the dry summer months without spiking my water bill. That first shower felt like a victory, a quiet rebellion against the creeping costs of suburban life. I stood on my back porch, grinning like a fool as the barrels began to fear, so I thought. 3 storms later, something was wrong. The barrels barely held a quarter of their capacity, even after downpours that turned my street into a river. I chalked it up to a leak at first, maybe a loose seal. But when I crawled under my deck with a flashlight, muddying my jeans in the process, I found the truth and it set my teeth on edge. Someone had tampered with my system. A tangle of unauthorized diversion pipes snaked away from my gutters, siphoning my rainwater into the ground and out of sight. I followed the trail, heart pounding, until a shadow loomed over me. "Mr. Carter," came a clipped voice. I looked up to see Mrs. Evelyn Hargrove, president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, standing at the edge of my property. She clutched her ever-present clipboard, her pinched face framed by a severe bob. "Your tomato trellises are 8 inches too tall. That's a violation of Section 14.6. I wiped mud from my hands, barely containing my irritation. "Forget the trellises, Evelyn. Who the hell put these pipes on my gutters?" She barely glanced at the evidence, her expression cool as marble. "The association made adjustments to optimize water flow for the community. If you'd bothered to attend the last meeting, you'd know we voted on it. Optimize. Istut, tailing oahe petite flame. You're stealing my rainwater." "Don't be absurd," she snapped, scribbling something on her clipboard. "Per bylaw 89.2, excess precipitation is a shared resource. Your little contraption wasn't approved anyway." 2 HOA maintenance workers appeared behind her, their neon vests glowing in the drizzle, nodding like obedient drones. I followed her as she strutted along my property line, pointing out the diversion system's clever disguise pipes hidden beneath mulch beds and decorative stones, channeling water underground. "This benefits the community garden," she said, as if that settled it. I knew that garden a lavish display of roses and ornamental grasses directly behind the HOA office, a pet project I'd refused to fund when they jacked up our dues last year. "You're raising my fees and taking my water?" My voice climbed despite my efforts to stay calm. Her eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone, Daniel. You're already on thin ice with violations this quarter." She turned on her heel, her lackeys trailing behind, leaving me fuming in the mud. That night, I couldn't sleep. Through my bedroom window, I watched the community garden's sprinklers flare to life, spraying my stolen water in wasteful arcs despite the day's rain. My phone buzzed with a text from my neighbor, Sam Torres. "Saw Hargrove at your place. You good?" I typed back, fingers shaking. "They're stealing my rainwater for their damn garden." His reply was instant. "Not just yours. Come over tomorrow. Bring your HOA contract." Sam's dining room became our war room the next morning. His table vanished under a sprawl of papers, bylaws, property maps, drainage schematics. Sam, a wiry electrician who'd tangled with the HOA over a shed permit 2 years back, pointed to a line in my contract. Bylaw 89.2, excess precipitation resource sharing. They slipped it in last fall without proper notice. It's shaky ground legally. "Can we fight it?" I asked, flipping through the dense document. "Alone? Maybe not," he admitted. "But I've been talking to Ruth Kaplan. She lives 3 streets over, retired civil engineer. She's been tracking Hargrove's moves for years." Ruth's house smelled of cinnamon and old books. At 68, she had the sharp eyes of a hawk and a mind like a steel trap. Her kitchen table groaned under blueprints and topographical maps as she laid out the HOA's scheme. "They're not just taking your water, Daniel," she said, tracing red lines across the neighborhood grid. They've built an underground network, siphoning from 8 properties. Yours in Clodeto irrigate their garden and that gaudy fountain out front. She tapped a cluster of properties. Guess who owns these? Hargrove, Vice President Langston, Treasurer Brooksall, board members. Sam smirked. Their backyards have the best views of the garden. Coincidence? Ruth's lips curled into a sly grin. Water seeks the lowest point unless diverted. Look here, she overlaid a topographic sheet. The HOA office sits in a natural basin. Without their pipes, all that runoff would pool right there. I leaned in, pulse quickening. So if their system failed, nature would take over, she said, her tone innocent but her eyes gleaming. Hypothetically, if someone tweaked these valves, she slid a hand-drawn diagram across the table. During a big storm, the water would flood their office instead of their precious roses. Sam laughed. And they have no one to blame but gravity. My weather app pinged. A monster storm was barreling toward us, due to hit Saturday night with 6 inches of rain, the biggest in a decade. The HOA's annual garden gala was scheduled for Sunday, a smug showcase of their ill-gotten greenery. I met Ruth's gaze. What would it take to make those tweaks? She pulled out a notebook and started sketching, explaining valve adjustments and flow dynamics with the enthusiasm of a kid building a fort. For the first time since finding those pipes, I felt a spark of hope. Friday night, under a sky bruised with clouds, I hauled supplies into my garage: pipe fittings, wrenches, waterproof gear. Ruth had crafted custom valves designed to mimic the HOA's, but fail under pressure, redirecting water to its natural path. Sam arrived with his son, Jake, a lanky 16-year-old who'd keep lookout. 6 hours during the storm, Sam said, checking our list. Low visibility, loud thunder, perfect cover. A car slowed outside. We froze as headlights swept past Hargrove's silver Lexus. She's been circling all week, I muttered. She knows something's up. Good, Ruth said, laminating her diagrams against the coming rain. Let her squirm. We're still on for Phase 2. Phase 2 was Sam's brainchild. Exposure. His daughter, Mia, a college sophomore studying journalism, had compiled a dossier: photos of the diversion pipes, financial records showing dues funneled to Hargrove's cousin's landscaping firm, and testimonies from affected neighbors. We'll drop this at the emergency meeting they'll call after the flood, Sam said, patting the folder. Ruth's already filed complaints with the county. Will it stick? I asked. The board had dodged scandals before. Ruth nodded. That's where Lisa comes in. Lisa Nguyen, my neighbor across the street, worked as a producer for Channel 7. She'd been itching to expose the HOA since they fined her for painting her mailbox blue. She promised a news crew would stumble onto our street Sunday, covering storm damage and maybe more. The rain began at dusk, a steady drumbeat that escalated into a roar by midnight. I barely slept, listening to the storm build. At 2 a.m., I suited up, black rain gear, headlamp, Ruth's tools, and slipped into the deluge. Lightning split the sky as I reached the first junction box near my azaleas. Water swirled around my boots as I swapped the HOA's valve for Ruth's, my hands steady despite the cold. Thunder drowned out the clank of metal. 3 more stops: Sam's yard, Ruth's back fence, and old Mr. Ellison's overgrown lot, where the HOA had buried pipes under his hydrangeas. At the final junction, headlights pierced the rain. I dropped flat, mud soaking my chest as Hargrove's Lexus crawled by. She was out in this mess, hunting for proof. I held my breath until she passed, then finished the job and bolted home, adrenaline buzzing. By dawn, the storm peaked. From my kitchen, coffee in hand, I watched the water obey gravity's pull. No longer diverted to the garden, it surged downhill, pooling around the HOA office. At 8:45, Hargrove's SUV splashed up, and she stepped out into ankle-deep water. Her scream was audible even over the fading thunder. She unlocked the office door, and a wave sloshed out, soaking her designer slacks. I grabbed my binoculars, her face, with a mask of fury and disbelief. The board arrived soon after, wading through the flood in their polished shoes. My phone buzzed. Emergency meeting, 2 p.m., Community Hall. Office flooded. Sam texted next. It worked. Lisa's crew is filming on Maple Lane. Ruth added, bring your fines and bank statements. Showtime. The community hall was a madhouse savory seat taken, neighbors spilling into the aisles. Hargrove stood at the podium, damp hair plastered to her scalp, clutching a microphone. This is an outrage, she barked. The flooding was no accident. Someone tampered with our drainage system, a criminal act. She glared at me, eyes like daggers. Certain residents with grudges may be involved. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I kept my face blank as Ruth rose, her voice cutting through the noise. Before you start pointing fingers, Evelyn, I've got something everyone should see. She unrolled a massive map, pinning it to the wall. This is Willow Creek's original drainage plan. In this, she overlaid a transparency, shows the illegal diversions you've built, stealing water from 8 homes for your garden. The room erupted. That's my property, shouted Mrs. Ellison, waving her cane. My roses drowned while you watered yours. Hargrove sputtered. This is preposterous. Is it? Sam stood, brandishing his folder. Here's proof. $32,000 of our dues paid to your cousin's company for this unpermitted system. He tossed copies into the crowd. Last night's flood? That was nature fixing your mess. You sabotaged us. Hargrove shrieked, slamming her fist on the podium. A new voice cut in. Actually, I'd like a word. Lisa stepped forward, Channel 7's camera crew trailing her. Lisa Nguyen, Channel 7 News. We've been investigating water rights violations here. The county's already involved. Care to comment, Mrs. Hargrove. Hargrove's face drained of color. This is a private meeting. Now when it's public interest, Lisa shot back. We got footage of your pipes. The county's not happy. The crowd cheered as Hargrove fled the podium, the board trailing her like scolded children. Sam clapped my shoulder. Phase 2's a knockout. 2 days later, county inspectors knocked on my door. Mr. Carter, we're investigating the HOA's water diversions, said one, flashing a badge. You're not a suspect, just a witness. I exhaled, pouring them coffee. I handed over my fines, water bills, and photos of the pipes. They left with a promise to dig deeper. That night, another emergency meeting convened. Hargrove tried one last stand, waving a recovered valve and blurry security footage. This proves sabotage. Before I could blink, a woman in a sharp blazer strode in. Diana Reese, County DA's office. We've reviewed evidence of your board's misconduct, water theft, fund misuse, falsified permits. Your accounts are frozen. Step down or face charges. Hargrove collapsed into a chair, defeated. A retired principal, Mr. Patel, took the mic. Time for new leadership. Who's in? My hand joined dozens others. Weeks later, the HOA office reopened as a community hub, its flood scars patched with transparency boards and a shared garden plan. Hargrove slunk back one day, handed me a refund check. The DA cut me a deal community service. They said you're running the water program now. I could have gloated. Instead, I said Tuesdays at 6. Wear boots. That evening, as kids splashed in a new play fountain built where Hargrove's pond once stood, I checked my barrels. Full to the brim, glinting in the sunset. Simple things, those barrels. Who'd have thought they'd drown a tyranny and water a revolution? If you were the one in this story, how would you react? Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this VY Deo with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next VY Deo.